Hello class, my name is Krivobok and my literature review examines the relationship between the lack of social support and increased crime rate in impoverished neighborhoods. This paper examines the impact of inadequate social support within areas of low socioeconomic status. Notably, it focuses on the impact of income segregation and its effects on things such as education and employment opportunities, physical and mental health effects, and family and peer networks. It also applies theory and analyzes community-wide intervention strategies. The importance of social support is that it provides stability and consistency within the community, it builds social bonds, and it reduces criminal activity and recidivism. The first factor that we analyze is social support and its effects on income segregation. An analysis of disadvantaged neighborhoods and communities showed that disorganization oftentimes persists due to inadequate access to resources and social support systems such as food banks and health centers. An analysis on income segregation finds that social support contributes to positive neighborhood characteristics such as safety and positive peer and family networks that influence behavior. Social support promotes conventional coping mechanisms to deal with negative strains and risks within the community that individuals may be susceptible to. Higher levels of inequality oftentimes reduces social capital, resulting in the inadequate financial funding for things such as schools, community centers, and health resources. A study done on the 100 largest metropolitan areas within the United States found that crime was 15.8% higher in cities within the lowest poverty score. The next factor that was analyzed is social support and its effects on education and job opportunities. The importance of this analysis is that it focused on areas that are underfunded and create inequality in obtaining sufficient education and job opportunities. A study done by Bradbury found that college completion rates were higher for individuals that had a higher social status compared to those who were low income. A panel study of income dynamics also found that 20.5% of African American males that had been born between 1966 and 1968 had been incarcerated, and approximately 59% of them had not obtained a high school diploma. Differential norms do exist between the social statuses, such as better education and access to social support resources and environmental safety. For example, schools that are sufficiently funded often have resources for more adequate staffing and school supplies, such as laptops and books. Additionally, better funded schools often have increased parental involvement and higher academic scores. The second factor that was analyzed is social support and its effects on physical and mental health. The importance of this factor is that it finds socioeconomic segregation is linked to negative health consequences and increased mortality rates. The National Health Interview Survey and National Death Index found that problems persist such as poor health conditions, population-wide dissatisfaction, social problems, and lower socioeconomic growth. A health comparison between the United States and England found that blood pressure, C-reactive protein, which is a stress marker, and cholesterol levels were higher in the United States, where there are higher rates of poverty. The National Health and Nutrition Examination Survey found that children that were aged between 1 and 5 who lived in lower socioeconomic communities had 8% blood lead levels, and those who were predominantly African American showed 11.2 blood lead levels compared to other children who averaged at 2% blood lead levels. Communities with a lack of financial funding and accessible resources often also had an increase in drug and alcohol usage to cope with negative emotions caused by unresolved problems or the inability to achieve necessities. A multi-level analysis of data from a 1995 survey of 497 residents within 32 neighborhoods found that social capital moderates the negative health consequences such as depression, which may continue to persist while there is disorganization in a community with low social control. The next factor that is analyzed is social support and its relation to peer networks and family influence. The importance of this is that it analyzes sources of emotional support through peer and family association, which have the potential for both positive and negative behavioral consequences. Studies find that social influence can promote social adjustment throughout adolescence and early adulthood. It also observes the importance of shared social norms and values within society, which tend to reinforce certain attitudes and behavior. Tesler finds that peer groups and family members may have an influence for both positive and negative attitudes. For example, crime within the family and gang affiliation are two strong factors that oftentimes emphasize reinforcement of negative behavior. This can be explained with the social learning theory, which states that deviance in criminal behavior is learned through observation and imitation of others. This is especially predominant in a young age or throughout adolescence. Within my literature review, I also included an application of theories to help explain the correlation between financial inequality and increased crime rates within impoverished neighborhoods. The three theories I will be discussing is the social disorganization theory, the relative deprivation hypothesis, and the general strain theory. The social disorganization theory was developed by Shaw and McKay and states that factors such as ethnic heterogeneity, socioeconomic status, and resident mobility impact social ties and may decrease a community's ability to approach social problems. The relative deprivation hypothesis argues that individuals with a low socioeconomic status may be at risk to physical and mental health issues due to insufficient funds for health care. The National Longitudinal Mortality Study found that socioeconomic status and income are correlated with infant and working age mortality. The general strain theory, developed by Agnew, focuses on possible strains in the environment which may influence an individual's involvement with deviant coping strategies such as substance abuse and crime. A 1944 National Youth Survey revealed that strains indirectly weaken social bonds and increased an individual's association with delinquent peers. The last factor that is analyzed are community-wide intervention programs, which find that community empowerment increases positive social interaction and cohesion while improving community safety and providing increased opportunity for employment and education. Two intervention programs are mentioned within the literature review, including the Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative and the Pennsylvania Horticulture Society. The Dudley Street Neighborhood Initiative increases jobs and provides affordable housing through building community centers and cleaning up neighborhoods. The Pennsylvania Horticulture Society is aimed to modify abandoned lots into green spaces, leading to increased community bonds while providing jobs within the community. The National Center for Charitable Statistics found that 10 additional nonprofit organizations per 100,000 residents is associated with a 6% decrease in murder, a 5% decrease in violent property crime, and a 6% decrease in violent crime. At-risk rate fell by 50 to 60%, and the dropout rate decreased by 80%, a level below the average. The graduation rate had risen from 42 to 75%, and 80% of those who had graduated had gone on to college or universities. In conclusion, this literature review finds that a lack of social support has several negative consequences on health, education, employment, and overall well-being of individuals in impoverished neighborhoods that may lead to unconventional coping mechanisms such as crime and substance abuse. Suggestions include further implementation of social support resources in areas that have been historically underfunded.